Captain John Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Earth Alliance vessel Intrepid, looking at the endless sea of stars through the main view screen. The ship had been on a routine survey mission in the Orion Arm for the past 3 weeks. Nothing exciting had happened yet. The crew collected data on distant stars, mapped new asteroid fields, and ran standard scans for potential habitable planets. John sipped his coffee and sighed. He had joined the Earth Alliance Space Force for adventure, to see things no human had ever seen before, but most days were filled with routine tasks and paperwork. "Captain, I'm detecting something strange," said Lisa Ward, the ship's tactical officer. Her fingers moved quickly across her console. "There's a massive energy signature appearing out of nowhere, about 50,000 kilometers off our starboard side." John put down his coffee cup. "Show me." The main screen shifted to display empty space, and then suddenly a massive object materialized. It was unlike anything John had ever seen before. The vessel was at least 20 times the size of the Intrepid, with a design that defied human engineering principles. It seemed to shimmer slightly, as if not fully existing in normal space. "All hands to battle stations," John ordered calmly. "Raise shields. Don't power weapons yet, but be ready." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Security Chief Paul Davis entered the bridge, his face serious but composed. "Are they hailing us?" John asked. Communications Specialist Alan Wright shook his head. "No, sir. Wait. Now they are. Receiving transmission on multiple frequencies." "Put it through." The screen flickered and John saw his first alien. The being had blue-tinted skin that seemed almost translucent. Its head was larger than a human's, with 4 dark eyes positioned in a diamond pattern. When it spoke, its thin lips barely moved. "Greetings, vessel from Earth. I am High Counselor Zaxthar of the Galactic Confederation. We have been observing your species for some time." John straightened his uniform jacket. "I am Captain John Mitchell of the Earth Alliance vessel Intrepid. We come in peace and friendship." The alien made a gesture that might have been amusement. "Yes, we know. Your species has only recently ventured beyond your solar system. We find it surprising that you have come so far so quickly." "May I ask how you know we're from Earth?" John asked. "The Confederation monitors all developing worlds. Your planet has been of particular interest to us due to its unusual properties." The alien tilted its head. "You see, Captain, in our classification system, Earth is what we call a death world." John frowned. "A death world?" "Yes. A planet with environmental conditions considered extremely hostile by galactic standards. High gravity, extreme weather patterns, dangerous predators, varying temperatures, and atmospheric conditions." The alien's eyes blinked in sequence rather than together. "The fact that intelligent life evolved in such conditions is remarkable." Kate Rogers, the ship's xenobiologist, had quietly entered the bridge and was watching with wide eyes. John could see her excitement. First contact was happening and she was here to witness it. "We would like to invite a delegation from your vessel to visit our ship," Zaxthar continued, "to formally welcome humanity to the galactic community." John looked at his senior officers. This was exactly what they had trained for. But actually, facing it was different. The potential for misunderstanding was enormous. "We would be honored," John replied. "Please allow us some time to prepare a delegation." "Of course. We will transmit coordinates for your shuttle in 1 of your hours." The screen went dark. The bridge was silent for a moment before erupting in excited conversation. "Quiet," John ordered, and the chatter stopped immediately. "Lisa, Paul, Kate, Alan, conference room now." In the privacy of the conference room, John looked at his team. "Thoughts?" "It's the opportunity of a lifetime," Kate said immediately. "First contact with a spacefaring civilization that claims to represent a galactic community." "I don't like that they've been watching us without making contact," Paul said. "And their ship appeared out of nowhere, which means their technology is far beyond ours." Lisa nodded. "We should be cautious. But this could also be the most important diplomatic mission in human history." "I noticed they referred to Earth as a death world," Alan said. The translation came through clearly, but there could be cultural connotations were missing. John considered all their points. I believe we should accept their invitation, but carefully. I'll lead the delegation. Paul, you'll come as security. Kate, we'll need your expertise on xenobiology. Alan, you'll handle communications. What about me, Captain? Lisa asked. You'll stay aboard and take command of the Intrepid. If anything goes wrong, the ship needs to be ready. Lisa looked disappointed, but nodded her agreement. One more thing, John added. We represent all of humanity in this meeting. We should follow their customs where reasonable, but we don't compromise our dignity or safety. We're meeting as equals, not supplicants. The team spent the next hour preparing. Kate reviewed all data on possible alien biology. Paul checked and rechecked their sidearms and emergency equipment. Alan studied the language patterns from the brief communication, looking for anything that might help with translation. Before they left, Lisa pulled John aside. Captain, be careful. This feels too convenient. A massive alien confederation just happens to find us in the vastness of space. John nodded. I've had the same thought, but we can't pass up this opportunity. Just keep the ship ready and maintain constant communication. The shuttle bay was prepared and the 4 officers boarded their small craft. As they launched toward the massive alien vessel, John felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries, contact with an alien civilization. But now that it was happening, he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The alien ship grew larger in their view screen. It was truly massive, with strange geometric patterns covering its surface that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Receiving docking instructions, Alan reported. They're guiding us to an entry port on the lower section. The shuttle approached carefully, following the transmitted flight path. As they neared the alien vessel, a section of the hull seemed to dissolve, revealing an opening just large enough for their shuttle. This is it, John said quietly. The moment everything changes for humanity. The shuttle entered the alien ship, and the opening sealed behind them. Whatever waited ahead would forever alter the course of human history. The shuttle landed smoothly in what appeared to be a massive docking bay inside the alien vessel. Captain John Mitchell and his team checked their equipment one last time before the shuttle door opened with a soft hiss. Remember, John said quietly to his team, we represent all of humanity today. They stepped out into an environment that seemed designed to impress. The ceiling soared at least 50 meters above them, with strange crystalline structures hanging. Down that gave off a soft blue light. The air felt slightly thinner than on the Intrepid, but breathable. 5 aliens waited for them. 4 were similar to Zaxthar, with the same blue-tinted skin and diamond-pattern eyes. The 5th was different, shorter, with red-orange skin and 6 limbs. Captain Mitchell, said the central figure, I am Sub-Counselor Vreelik. High Counselor Zaxthar has asked me to escort you to the Grand Chamber, where representatives from across the Confederation await. John nodded respectfully. We are honored by your welcome. Kate Rogers was barely containing her excitement, her eyes darting between the aliens, taking in every detail. Alan Wright had activated his translator, device which was recording everything. Paul Davis maintained a professional distance, one hand never straying far from his sidearm. The aliens led them through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked. Alan whispered that he suspected some kind of spatial manipulation, technology. They passed other alien beings, some humanoid, others completely foreign to human experience. A floating cloud of green particles moved out of their way. A being that appeared to be made of interlocking geometric shapes worked at a control panel. The Confederation includes over 3,000 member species, Sub-Counselor Vreelik explained, noticing their interest. Though only about 500 maintain permanent representatives on council vessels. How many worlds are classified as death worlds? Kate asked. Less than 2%, replied Vreelik. Most intelligent life evolves in far more hospitable environments. Species from death worlds are uncommon in galactic society. Paul noticed that several passing aliens gave them wide berth, some even changing direction entirely to avoid coming near the humans. "Your people seem cautious around us," he observed. The six-limbed alien spoke for the first time. "They fear what they do not understand. Deathworlders are known to be unpredictable and physically robust beyond normal parameters." John felt uneasy at this characterization, but kept his diplomatic smile in place. "We come in peace and friendship." "Yes," said Vreelik. "All species say this. Actions define intentions more clearly than words." They arrived at a massive doorway that seemed to be made of flowing liquid metal. It parted silently as they approached, revealing a grand chamber beyond. The human team stopped in surprise. The storeroom was enormous, at least the size of a football stadium, but arranged in concentric circles descending toward a central platform. Each circle contained different alien species, standing or sitting according to their physiology. John estimated there were representatives of at least 30 distinct species present. "The Grand Chamber," announced Vreelik, "where matters of galactic importance are discussed and decided." They were led down a walkway toward the center. John noticed that all conversation stopped as they passed, with many aliens turning to stare at the humans. Some used devices to scan them while others whispered to their neighbors. At the lowest level stood three tall beings with iridescent skin that shifted colors in rippling patterns. Their compound eyes reflected light like prisms. "The High Council," whispered Vreelik reverently. "They represent the founding species of the Confederation." High Counselor Zaxthar stepped forward. Up close, John could see fine patterns on its skin that seemed to move subtly. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," Zaxthar's voice resonated clearly throughout the chamber. "You stand now in the heart of galactic civilization, among the assembled delegates of the most advanced species in known space." John stepped forward. "Thank you for your welcome, High Counselor. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge." "Yes," Zaxthar replied. "All new species seek knowledge, but knowledge must be earned, and trust must be established before deeper sharing can begin." One of the other High Counselors spoke, its voice deeper and more resonant. "The humans must first learn their place in the galactic order, proceed with the classification ceremony." A new alien approached, carrying what appeared to be a ceremonial staff topped with a glowing crystal. This being was tall and thin, with gray skin that seemed almost stone-like in texture. "Captain John Mitchell of Earth," the alien announced formally. "You stand before the Galactic Confederation as representative of your species. Before you can be welcomed into the community of civilized worlds, you must acknowledge your species' place in the natural hierarchy." Kate and Alan exchanged concerned glances. This hadn't been mentioned before. The alien continued. "Earth has been classified as a Category 4 death world, placing your species in the frontier development tier. As such, proper submission must be shown to ecological superiors." "Submission?" John asked carefully. "Yes. You will kneel before the High Council and touch your forehead to the floor 3 times in succession. This demonstrates your understanding of cosmic order and your acceptance of guidance from more advanced species." The chamber grew completely silent. All eyes were on the human delegation. Paul shifted his stance slightly, moving closer to John. Kate looked troubled. Alan was frantically checking his translator, making sure nothing had been misunderstood. John kept his expression neutral, despite his surprise. "I believe there may be a cultural misunderstanding. In human diplomatic traditions, kneeling as you describe is not a typical greeting between equals." The alien with the staff seemed taken aback. "This is not a greeting between equals. This is acknowledgement of natural order. Deathworlders particularly must demonstrate submission, as your evolutionary path through violence and competition, rather than harmony, makes you unpredictable." John felt a flash of indignation but kept his voice level. "With respect, your assessment of human evolution is incomplete. While competition played a role, cooperation and mutual aid were equally important to our development." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The High Counselors conferred briefly among themselves. Zaxthar addressed John directly. Captain Mitchell, perhaps you misunderstand. This is not a request. All species entering the Confederation must complete the submission ceremony. It is the way things have always been done. John looked around the chamber, noting the reactions of various alien representatives. Some seemed shocked by his hesitation. Others watched with what appeared to be interest or even anticipation. He thought about Earth, about human history with its long struggle for dignity and equality. He thought about his mission to represent humanity honorably. "High Counselor," John said clearly, his voice carrying through the silent chamber. "I came seeking friendship between equals, not to establish dominance or submission. If you wish to build a relationship with humanity, it must be founded on mutual respect." The staff-bearing alien stepped back in apparent shock. High Counselor Zaxthar's skin darkened visibly. "No species has ever refused the submission ceremony," Zaxthar said, its voice carrying a new edge. "The consequences could be severe." Silence filled the Grand Chamber after Captain John Mitchell's refusal to perform the submission ceremony. The aliens in the upper circles began to whisper among themselves. Some pointed at the humans with what looked like shock or alarm. "No species has ever refused," repeated High Counselor Zaxthar, its skin now a dark purple color. "This is most unexpected." John kept his posture straight and his voice calm. "On Earth, we have a long history of forcing people to bow to show their lower status. In our experience, true cooperation only happens between equals." Security Chief Paul Davis stood slightly closer to his captain, ready for trouble. Kate Rogers watched the reactions of the various aliens with keen interest. Alan Wright continued recording everything, his translator working to catch the quiet conversations happening around the chamber. "Impossible," exclaimed Sub-Counselor Vreelik, its 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "All species understand the natural order, especially Deathworlders who must learn to control their aggressive instincts." Kate stepped forward. "With respect, Sub-Counselor, you seem to have some misconceptions about human evolution and psychology. While Earth is challenging by your standards, it taught us to adapt and work together, not just fight." The staff-bearing alien looked to the High Council for guidance. One of the other High Counselors, who had not spoken before, moved forward. Its skin rippled with bands of gold and green. "The humans clearly do not understand their place," this new counselor said. "Perhaps a demonstration is required." John felt Paul tense beside him. "We came here in peace," John said firmly. "But we won't be treated as inferior simply because our world is different from yours." Alan leaned close to John. "Captain, I'm picking up increased communications throughout the ship. Some kind of alert has been triggered." The Grand Chamber doors opened and 6 tall aliens entered. They wore fitted armor that seemed to shift and flow with their movements. Each carried what was clearly a weapon. "Guards," Paul whispered. "Standard formation. They're positioning to surround us." John kept his hands visible and his expression neutral. He knew this moment was critical. Any wrong move could lead to disaster not just for his team but potentially for Earth. "High Counselor," John said, addressing Zaxthar directly, "there must be a way to establish relations without this ceremony. Throughout Earth's history, we've learned that forcing submission often leads to resentment, not true cooperation. Before Zaxthar could respond, a new voice called out from the upper circles of the chamber. "The Deathworlder speaks wisdom." All eyes turned to see a reptilian alien with golden scales standing up from its position in the 3rd circle. The being was shorter than the High Counselors but had a powerful build with a thick tail that thumped against the floor. "Ambassador Krell of Sorix," announced Vreelik with what sounded like disapproval. "Your delegation has no place in this matter." The reptilian alien, Krell, moved toward the central platform, ignoring the guards who shifted uncomfortably at this breach of protocol. "I disagree," Krell said, approaching the humans. "This matter concerns all members of the Confederation." It turned to address the assembled aliens. "For too long, we have followed customs without questioning their purpose." Krell stood beside John, now facing the High Council. Up close, John could see intelligence in the alien's vertical pupilled eyes. "200 cycles ago, my own species refused the submission ceremony," Krell announced loudly, causing gasps among many delegates. The Saurix homeworld is classified as a Category 3 death world. We too evolved through adaptation to harsh conditions. High Counselor Zaxthar's skin shifted rapidly through several colors. Ambassador Krell, this is highly irregular. The humans must learn. Learn what, exactly? Interrupted Krell. To accept arbitrary dominance or to stand for their principles as they are doing now? Kate touched John's arm and whispered, Captain, this could be important. The Saurix appear to be the only other Death World species here. John nodded slightly. This unexpected ally might help them navigate this dangerous situation. The third High Counselor, who had remained silent until now, spoke. Its voice was melodic, almost like singing. Ambassador Krell speaks from experience. Perhaps we should consider his perspective. Krell turned to face John. Captain Mitchell of Earth, I recognize your stance. When we refused to bow, we were nearly expelled from the Confederation before we had properly joined it. The reptilian's mouth moved in what might have been a smile. Now we hold a position in the third circle. Progress is possible. A small, floating alien that resembled a jellyfish drifted down from the upper circles. Its translucent body pulsed with soft light as it spoke. The question before us is simple. Is the purpose of the submission ceremony to establish actual hierarchy, or to ensure that new species understand the importance of order within the Confederation? The chamber grew quiet as the delegates considered this question. John seized the opportunity. We understand the importance of order and cooperation. Earth has many nations that work together despite differences. We have rules, laws, and diplomatic protocols. What we object to is the specific form of this ceremony, which conflicts with our core values of equality and dignity. The floating alien bobbed in what might have been approval. Well stated. Perhaps there are alternative ways to welcome Earth into the galactic community. High Counselor Zaxthar's color slowly returned to its normal blue shade. This is unprecedented. The submission ceremony has been our way for thousands of years. And perhaps, said Krell, it is time for that way to evolve. The High Counselors conferred among themselves, their voices too low for the translator to catch. Around the chamber, different delegations whispered and gestured. Paul kept a careful watch on the guards, who remained in position but had not moved closer. Alan continued recording everything, occasionally whispering translations of nearby conversations to Kate. After several tense minutes, Zaxthar addressed the chamber. We will recess for one standard time unit to consider this matter. The human delegation will be escorted to guest quarters. Ambassador Krell, the High Council requests your presence for consultation. John nodded respectfully. Thank you, High Counselor. As they were escorted from the chamber, Krell fell into step beside John. You have made quite an impression, Captain Mitchell. No species has challenged the ceremony so directly since mine did. We meant no disrespect, John replied, but we couldn't compromise on this point. Krell made a sound that the translator interpreted as a chuckle. Disrespect is sometimes necessary for progress. The Confederation has grown stagnant in many ways. Perhaps humans will help change that. John noticed other delegates watching them with new interest as they left the chamber. Some seemed curious, others concerned. What happens now? John asked quietly. Now, Krell replied, the real politics begin. The Confederation must decide if they want Earth as an equal partner, or not at all. As they reached the guest quarters, Krell paused. Prepare yourselves. The next few hours will determine humanity's place in the galaxy. The door closed behind the human delegation, leaving them alone to consider what had just happened and what might come next. Inside the guest quarters, Captain John Mitchell and his team gathered around a strange table that seemed to hover in the center of the room. The space was comfortable, but clearly designed for beings different from humans. The chairs were too low, the lighting slightly too bright. What do you think will happen? Kate asked, her excitement about first contact now mixed with concern. John considered the question carefully. I'm not sure. This Ambassador Krell seemed supportive, but we've clearly broken some important tradition. I recorded conversations from at least 12 different species while we were leaving the chamber, Alan said, checking his translator device. The reactions are mixed. Some think we're arrogant, others seem impressed. Paul stood near the door, ever vigilant. Those guards weren't just for show, they were armed and ready. We need to be prepared for anything. John nodded. Lisa needs to know what's happening. He activated his communicator. Mitchell to Intrepid. After a moment of static, Lisa's voice came through. Intrepid here. What's your status, Captain? John filled her in on everything that had happened. The situation is uncertain. Keep the ship ready, but take no aggressive actions. Understood, Lisa replied. Should we prepare for emergency extraction? John looked at his team before answering. Not yet. I believe there's still a diplomatic solution here. After ending the communication, John turned to find an opening had appeared in the wall of their quarters. A small alien floated through. It was the jellyfish-like being from the chamber. Greetings, humans. I am Diplomat Neri of the Lumina Collective. Its body pulsed with gentle light as it spoke. I hope I am not intruding. Not at all, John replied. We welcome the company. Neri floated closer. Your stance in the Grand Chamber has caused quite a stir throughout the Confederation vessel. Many delegations are discussing it. Kate stepped forward, fascinated by the alien's biology. May I ask why you've come to see us? Neri's lights pulsed in a pattern that seemed to indicate amusement. Curiosity primarily. In my 500 cycles as a diplomat, I have never witnessed a species refuse the submission ceremony. I wish to understand your reasoning better. John gestured to an empty space at the table. Please join us. We're happy to explain our perspective. The alien settled into the air above the table. The High Council is in serious debate. Ambassador Krell has been quite vocal in your defense. We appreciate his support, John said. But I'm curious. Why did you speak up in the chamber? You seem to support finding an alternative. Neri's body shifted colors slightly. The Lumina evolved in the upper atmosphere of a gas giant. We have no concept of bowing or kneeling as your species does. Our inclusion in the Confederation required adaptations to the ceremony. Its lights dimmed slightly. I have long wondered if the rigid traditions serve their original purpose. Alan leaned forward. What was the original purpose of the ceremony? Before Neri could answer, the door opened again. Ambassador Krell entered, followed by two other reptilian saurics. Captain Mitchell, Krell said, the situation has grown more complex. The High Council is divided on how to proceed. The reptilian's tail swished with what seemed like agitation. Some factions see your refusal as a sign that humans are too unpredictable to join the Confederation. Others see it as proof of exactly the kind of independent thinking the galaxy needs. Neri's lights pulsed rapidly. The Lumina delegation will support Earth's inclusion without the traditional ceremony. Krell nodded at the floating alien. As will the Saurics. But the Council's eldest members are resistant to change. John felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. This wasn't just about him or his team anymore. The future relationship between Earth and the galactic community hung in the balance. There's something you should know, Krell said, lowering his voice. The submission ceremony is more than tradition. It has practical effects. Kate's eyes widened. What kind of effects? Species who complete the ceremony are subtly directed in their development, Krell explained. They receive technological gifts, but always with limitations. Their ships are granted access to specific trade routes, but not others. Their representatives are placed in lower circles, where they can observe but rarely influence policy. John frowned. You're describing a system designed to keep newer species dependent. Precisely, Neri confirmed, floating closer. Those who bow remain in the role of students, never becoming full partners in the Confederation. One of the other Saurics spoke up. It took our species 70 cycles to overcome the disadvantages of refusing the ceremony. But now we sit in the third circle and develop our own technology without restrictions. Paul moved away from the door. So this isn't really about respect or tradition. It's about control. A harsh but not inaccurate assessment, Krell agreed. The founding species fear competition. They prefer grateful clients to independent peers. The revelation settled over the human team. John thought about Earth history, how colonial powers had often demanded symbolic submissions from native populations as the first step in long-term control. What happens now? John asked. If we continue to refuse? Krell's scaled face formed what might have been a grim smile. That is being decided as we speak, but I believe you should prepare for... A loud alarm cut off his words. Red lights began, pulsing throughout the room. What's happening? John demanded. Neri's body flashed with what seemed like alarm. That's the security alert. Something is wrong. The door slid open and an agitated Freelik rushed in. Captain Mitchell, your vessel is powering weapons. John's heart sank. There must be some mistake. I ordered no aggressive actions. He quickly activated his communicator. Mitchell to Intrepid, report. Lisa's voice came through, tight with tension. Captain, 3 smaller vessels detached from the Confederation ship and approached us with weapons charged. We raised shields as a precaution but have not armed weapons. John turned to Vreelik. My first officer says your vessels approached mine with hostile intent. Vreelik's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. I received no orders for such action. Krell hissed softly. It appears someone wishes to force a confrontation. Just then, the ship shuddered slightly. All the lights flickered. We need to get to the Grand Chamber immediately, Krell said urgently. This situation will spiral out of control quickly. As they rushed through the corridors, John kept his communicator channel open to the Intrepid. They passed aliens running in various directions, many looking confused or frightened. When they reached the Grand Chamber, they found it in chaos. Delegates argued loudly, some pointing accusingly at the humans. The High Council was trying to restore order without success. Hi. Counselor Zaxthar spotted them and approached quickly. Captain Mitchell, your vessel has taken aggressive action against Confederation ships. That's not true, John countered firmly. Your ships approached mine with weapons charged. My crew raised shields defensively but did not arm weapons. The Third High Counselor, the one with the melodic voice, moved forward. This matches the report from our tactical sensors. The Earth vessel has not fired or locked weapons. Then who ordered our ships to approach them? Zaxthar demanded. A tense silence fell over the nearby delegates. I believe, said Krell carefully, that someone wishes to prove that Deathworlders cannot be trusted, that humans are too dangerous to join the Confederation as equals. John looked around the chamber, seeing the fear and suspicion on many alien faces. This was the moment that would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy. Everything depended on what happened next. The Grand Chamber vibrated with tension. Captain John Mitchell stood firm as accusations flew around him. His team stayed close, watching the chaos unfold among the alien delegates. This is exactly why Deathworlders must submit, shouted a delegate from the upper circles. They bring violence wherever they go. Zaxthar raised his hands for silence, but the chamber remained noisy. John caught Krell's eye, and the reptilian alien gave him a slight nod. High Counselor, John said, his voice cutting through the noise. I request permission to contact my ship directly from here, so all delegates can hear the communication. Zaxthar hesitated, then nodded. Granted. But be aware that deception will only worsen your position. John activated his communicator on Beer, an open channel that the chamber's systems amplified. Mitchell to Intrepid. Status report, Lieutenant Ward. Lisa's voice rang clearly through the chamber. Captain, we remain at defensive status only. 3 Confederation vessels approached with active weapons. We raised shields but have not armed our own weapons. They continue to maintain position, refusing all communication attempts. Send visual feed to my location, John ordered. The center of the chamber lit up with a holographic display showing the Intrepid surrounded by 3 smaller but heavily armed vessels. As you can see, John addressed the assembled delegates, my ship has not taken aggressive action. My first officer is Following my orders exactly. The third High Counselor, the one with the melodic voice, stepped forward. This matches our sensor data. The human vessel remains defensive. The question remains, who authorized our security vessels to take such action? A uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. Suddenly, a delegate from the second circle stood. This alien was tall and spindly with pearl-white skin and 6 arms. I gave the order. All eyes turned to this new speaker. Counselor Drav of the Perlaxian Coalition, announced Vreelik, sounding surprised. Drav moved down toward the central platform. Yes, I ordered the security vessels to approach the human ship, a necessary test of their intentions. Without authorization from the High Council? Zaxthar's skin darkened with what John now recognized as anger. The Council moves too slowly. Drav replied. These humans represent a serious threat to Confederation stability. They question our most sacred traditions. They refuse to acknowledge the natural order. What will happen if they join us as equals? How many other species will follow their example? Ambassador Krell moved to stand beside John. So you created a false crisis to prove they are dangerous. And they failed your test, noted Neri, floating forward. The humans showed restraint despite provocation. Drav's 6 hands gestured dismissively. For now. But their history is filled with violence. All Deathworld species are unpredictable. The established order must be maintained. The chamber erupted. Again an argument. John looked at his team. Kate appeared fascinated by the political drama. Alan continued recording everything. Paul remained vigilant, watching for any threat. The third High Counselor raised a hand and a clear bell-like tone silenced the chamber. I believe we have reached the heart of the matter. This is not about tradition or respect. It is about fear of change. John stepped forward. If I may address the chamber? Zaxthar nodded permission. Delegates of the Confederation, John began, feeling the weight of this moment. It's true that Earth has a violent history. We've fought wars, made terrible mistakes and hurt each other, but we've also created art, music, literature, and science. We've learned to work together despite our differences. He looked around at the alien faces. Yes, our world shaped us to be strong and sometimes aggressive, but it also taught us to be adaptable, innovative, and cooperative. When faced with challenges, humans find solutions. John gestured to the holographic display of his ship. Look at the evidence before you. Provoked, we remained peaceful. We stood our ground without attacking. Isn't that the true test of a civilized species? Kate stepped forward to join him. The Confederation needs diversity of thought and experience. If all member species think the same way, how will you face new challenges? Alan added, in our brief time here, we've already identified ways your translation systems could be improved. Different perspectives are valuable. Paul spoke last. A security chief's job is to prepare for threats. But if you see every unknown as a threat, you miss opportunities for growth. A new voice spoke from the upper circles. The humans speak wisdom. This came from a delegate John hadn't noticed before, a being that looked like a shimmering cloud of gas contained within a transparent shell. The Vaith Collective agrees, said another delegate, this one resembling a giant insect with gleaming compound eyes. Across the chamber, more voices joined in support. Not all, but enough to create a growing chorus. High Counselor Zaxthar conferred briefly with the other council members, then addressed the chamber. It seems the humans have sparked a long overdue discussion within our ranks. The High Counselor with the melodic voice spoke next. For 10,000 cycles, the submission ceremony has been our way. Perhaps it is time to create a new tradition, one of mutual respect rather than hierarchy. John felt hope rising. He kept his expression calm, but inside he was amazed at this apparent breakthrough. Drav and his supporters looked displeased, but they remained silent as the mood of the chamber shifted. Captain Mitchell, Zaxthar said formally, the High Council proposes an alternative. Instead of the traditional submission ceremony, we offer a ceremony of mutual recognition. Earth would be welcomed as a full associate member of the Confederation, with the same rights and responsibilities as any other world at that level. John looked at his team, who all nodded in agreement. We would be honored to participate in such a ceremony. The chamber filled with approving sounds from various species. Krell's tail thumped the floor in what seemed like applause. There is one more matter, said the third High Counselor. Counselor Drav's unauthorized actions cannot go unaddressed. Drav stiffened as guards moved toward him. However, continued the High Counselor, this incident has revealed flaws in our system that needed examination. For this indirect service, some leniency may be warranted. The next hour passed in a flurry of diplomatic activity. The new ceremony was quickly arranged. John stood proudly with his team as they formally exchanged pledges of cooperation and respect with the High Council. No one knelt or bowed, but hands were clasped in the human tradition of greeting equals. When it was done, Krell approached them. You have changed more than you know today, Captain Mitchell. The ripples of this will spread throughout the galaxy. We only stood for what we believe, John replied. Sometimes, said Neri, floating nearby, that is the most revolutionary act possible. Later, as they prepared to return to the Intrepid, Zaxthar met them at the shuttle bay. The Council has approved a permanent diplomatic mission from Earth. We would welcome an embassy here. John smiled. I'll convey that invitation to Earth's governments. I believe they'll be very interested. As their shuttle departed the massive alien vessel, John looked at his team. Well done, everyone. First contact was certainly more exciting than we expected. Kate grinned. Just wait until we tell Lisa everything that happened. Alan nodded, patting his recorder. It's all here. The day humanity joined the galaxy. The day a Deathworlder refused to bow, Paul corrected with a rare smile, and change the galaxy forever. John looked out at the stars as they approached the Intrepid. Today was just the beginning. Humanity had a place in the galactic community now, not as servants or students, but as equals. The road ahead would have challenges, but also incredible opportunities. The universe had just gotten a lot bigger, and humanity was ready to take its place among the stars.